right, go. Oh, that's it.
What is this?
Yes. Okay. We got a winner here. We got a winner. Go ahead. Box number 3. So now you go to box number 3. Pull something out. Did you get a car? Did you get a car? What?
I got a Pez.
Cool. All right. Thanks.
We are starting this seriously ridiculous look at people, stories from the Bible that are just kind of weird and strange and odd. And you got egg.
I gotta wear these pants again, man.
All over your pants. Anyway, so we found there are some ridiculous pictures. Just a couple. This is a house. This is somebody's house. It's pretty awesome. I've heard of dressing dogs up before. This is pretty funny. And then speaking of things that look like dogs, sorry. I love that. I'm gonna do that. I didn't know that this could happen. That's a giraffe. If you're gonna go out to the park and play frisbee, maybe you could. Actually, it'd be really funny to just go sit in a park like that. There's a, kind of a. It's a dog on a tree. It's a dog, actually, well, okay. Anyway, I love this. This is great. That's actually not real. But I think this one is. I don't know. Anybody want to try that? Anybody want to? Austin, come on up and give that a try. And then speaking of just like weird, gross things, we get to our friends. The cicadas. This is the tree outside in the parking lot earlier this week. This was at a time when it wasn't as covered. There were trees outside when you walk out the steps at the hottest afternoon last week. You couldn't see the tree. It was all cicada. Yeah. So this is just a close up. In case you weren't sure what they looked like real close up. But here's a solution. Here's a solution that somebody found to the cicada issue. I saw this on the news. Somebody really fried up some cicadas. Why don't Raj, can you help out? Here's the sign. Raj has got a gift. Let's bring it in.
What? It's not cicada.
Oh, yeah.
Stop. What is that?
I spent like half an hour picking it up.
Who wants to, would you like to hold it? No? Anybody? You guys good? You want? Anybody? Oh, sorry. Yeah, so, Raj, in addition to playing the egg game, Raj the intern went out and collected this. Intern Raj went out and collected these this morning, just out the back of the church. He said there's probably about 100 of them in here, which they're kind of stacked on each other. He also said he'd be willing to eat one. We won't do that, because then if I take the jar off or take the lid off, they'd be out. So, however, imagine. I want you to imagine. Okay, number one, what would you do if I just took the lid off of this many in the room? How many of you would scream and run and slap me? Okay, yeah. These things are. It was really funny yesterday at a graduation. It's funny to be at graduations. I noticed that everybody was outside afterwards, and if somebody would have had a camera, I bet they would have had 1,000 shots of people doing something like this. Or doing the windmill. It would have been great to make a video. Oh, excuse me. They're not dead, they're still crawling around. There are air holes in the top. just so you know, they are safe. I'm just going to set them, I'll set them back here. They can breathe. So, the Bible story is related to this morning because we would freak out if there's probably like 50 or 100 at most in there. We would freak out if we let those things go in here. But I want you to imagine if there were like thousands of them. If somebody unleashed thousands of them in here. Yeah, there is a story like that found in the book of Exodus where there are locusts and all kinds of other things just unleashed on the people of Egypt. And so we're going to look at that story this morning, and every time you hear that, I want you to imagine that multiplied by 1,000. And that's what the people who were in this story were experiencing. And kind of what happened is God came to Moses in the desert. And the Israelite people had been slaves in Egypt. They were the Egyptian slaves. They were mostly making bricks. All right, it's going to distract me. Hey, Tom, will you bring that down? That's a great effect, though. So, the Israelite people had been enslaved in Egypt, and the Egyptians were making them make bricks, and they were making them work day and night, 7 days a week, no break, non-stop. They were working, and they were being treated poorly, they were being mistreated. And God came to Moses and he said, listen, I've heard the cry of my people, and I want you to go, and I want you to confront Pharaoh, and he's going to let them go. And so this is kind of the story. It's the story of the plagues of Egypt. And it might be really familiar to some of you, but it's just kind of a weird story because there are all these things that happen. So I want to see if we can look at this story and then figure out, beyond just being a strange thing with all kinds of bugs and frogs and stuff like that, if there's something more going on in this story. So this is kind of the first time where Moses and his brother Aaron went to confront Pharaoh. I'll just read this. It says, afterward Moses and Aaron went to Pharaoh and said, this is what the Lord, the God of Israel says, let my people go, so that they may hold a festival to me in the wilderness. Pharaoh said, and I want you to remember this question. This is the biggest question that he asked, and he wanted to know the answer to this. And he was basically like, who is the Lord? Who's the Lord to me, that I should obey him and let Israel go? I do not know the Lord, and I will not let Israel go. So Moses and Aaron come and say, God, the Lord, the God of Israel, wants you to let the people go. And Pharaoh's like, he means nothing to me. Your God that you're talking about has no power. There's nothing to that. And so then they said, the God of the Hebrews has met with us. Now let us take a 3-day journey into the wilderness to offer sacrifices to the Lord our God, or he may strike us with plagues or with the sword. But the king of Egypt said, Moses and Aaron, why are you taking the people away from their labor? Get back to your work. Then Pharaoh said, look, the people of the land are now numerous, and you are stopping them from working. That same day, Pharaoh gave this order to the slave drivers and overseers in charge of the people. You are no longer to supply the people with straw for making bricks. Let them go and gather their own straw. Up to that point, the Israelites had just been making the bricks themselves. This is really similar to the kind of stuff we're talking about when we did the Justice Mission series, talking about Rock the Chains and the kinds of things that are going on. Like people are in brick factories. This is a similar thing. And up to this point, the Egyptian people were at least bringing the supplies for them to make the bricks, and then they had their quota of bricks they had to make. But when Moses and Aaron came to Pharaoh, Pharaoh said, you know what? Stop doing that. Let them collect their own stuff, and they still have to make the same amount of bricks every day. But require them, there it is, verse 8, but require them to make the same number of bricks as before. Don't reduce the quota. They are lazy. That is why they are crying out, let us go and sacrifice to our God. Make the work harder for the people so that they keep working and pay no attention to lies. And so that's kind of the first time that Moses and Aaron confront Pharaoh. And then I want to talk through the plagues. They span through chapters like 7 through 12 in the book of Exodus. So we're not going to read all of those verses this morning, but I'm just going to talk about the specific plagues. There are 10 of them. So 7:17, this is the first plague. This is what the Lord says. By this you will know that I am the Lord. With the staff that is in my hand, I will strike the water of the Nile. The Nile River it's huge. It goes through Egypt. And it will be changed into blood. The fish in the Nile will die and the river will stink. The Egyptians will not be able to drink its water. Here's just a picture of the Nile River in Egypt. So I want you to imagine this whole thing turning blood red. All the fish dying, popping up to the surface. It would be disgusting. You wouldn't be able to drink the water. So that's the first thing that happened. Second plague. Then the Lord said, "Let my people go. And if you refuse to let them go, I'm going to send a plague of frogs. There are going to be frogs everywhere, all over Egypt. They'll come up into your palace, and your bedroom, and onto your bed, into the houses of your officials, and on your people, into your ovens and kneading troughs. The frogs will come up on you and your people and all your officials." Here's a picture. That's frogs there, people riding down the street. I imagine it was probably something like that, but maybe even worse. Just imagine frogs everywhere. Going home today and there being frogs in your house, on your bed, in your oven. You open up your cupboard, or your cupboard. Open up your cabinet to get a glass, get some water or something, frogs. Just frogs everywhere. That's the second plague. Third plague. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Strike out your staff and strike the dust of the ground. Throughout the land of Egypt, the dust will become gnats." Now this translation isn't actually... there are some translations that say gnats. There are some translations that say lice. So imagine if all the dust in the air turned into lice. This is a singular louse. This is what one looks like up close. Imagine all of the dust outside turning into these things and making their home on you. Yeah, weird stuff going on in this story. Next plague. Then the Lord said, "Go and say to Pharaoh, 'Let my people go. If you do not let my people go, I will send swarms of flies on you and your officials.'" This is an actual picture of a swarm of flies. All those, it looks like it's real pixelated and stuff. It's flies everywhere. It's a swarm of actual flies. So imagine just building on itself here. We've got frogs. We've got lice on everything, as much as the dust. And now we have flies that look like this all over the place outside. Weird story. Next. "Let my people go. If you refuse to let them go, the hand of the Lord will bring a terrible plague on all your livestock in the field, on your horses, donkeys, and camels, and on your cattle, sheep, and goats." And the story, there's a lovely picture of it. It's a beautiful cow. All the cute cows like this in this story in Egypt died. All the livestock were infected with a plague. So cows, sheep, goats, whatever else kinds of animals they had here, struck with this plague and died. Then the Lord said, "Take handfuls of soot from a furnace and have Moses toss it into the air in the presence of Pharaoh, and it will become fine dust all over the land of Egypt. It will fall on the people, and their skin will be infected with boils," which are... They're disgusting pictures of skin boils. If you really want to see them, you can look at them. I wasn't going to show one here, so this is just some boiling water to represent boils. But all over people's skin. All over people's skin. So we've got blood, water. We've got frogs. We've got lice. Now we have boils. We've got flies. Dead livestock. Weird story. Gnats. Next, God sent Moses to Pharaoh and said, basically, tell all your people to bring their livestock in, anything that survived, I guess. Bring it into some place of shelter, because if not, I'm going to send a hailstorm, and it's going to kill anything else that's out there. And so, just a picture of a hailstorm. We had some hail smacking into the back of our house the other night. But imagine hail big enough that anything it fell on was killed. That's huge. Huge hail, and lots of it all over the land of Egypt. Next.